It's 2010, October, nearly Halloween. You wake up, go to your computer, and load up Minecraft like it's any other day. But this time, something's off. You can't put your finger on it, yet you feel unsettled. You feel lost in your own familiar Minecraft world. You feel like you're being watched. You feel like you're not alone. What changed? Was it the chicken you left by your base looking at you funny? Was it something that changed in Minecraft itself? Did Notch update the game again? Was it you who changed? If you ever felt this way back then, you are not alone. When you play Minecraft today, it doesn't feel like this, hardly ever. It feels vibrant, alive, and cozy. Even being alone in the darkness of the night feels different. Even being alone in the deep dark feels different. It's scary, but in an entirely different way. You're scared of what you know can happen, not because of what could be lurking beyond the alpha Minecraft fog. Old Minecraft was inherently creepy and weird, but not by design. So let's talk about why that is and how it relates to other urban legends surrounding old games, and what makes those stories way more terrifying than any scary story or gaming creepypasta conspiracy today. There's a reason there are so many analog horror videos about old Minecraft. There's a reason the scary mods of today, well, aren't really that scary fundamentally. There's a reason Minecraft's most famous, and one of the most famous urban legend conspiracies in all of gaming, Herobrine, was born. It's the unsettling atmosphere of old Minecraft creating an environment that led people to say, what if? I will say that I don't really know why exactly it feels so much creepier than today's game, like I can't really put my finger on the cause. But I do have some theories after discussing this idea and thinking about other old games like it. So, back then, Minecraft was not as well documented as it is now. Notch had his Word of Notch blog posting updates to the game, as well as the various indie game forum threads he made about it, and well, that was about it. The wikis and the wealth of informational content on the game came way later. Like me, you may have used the famous Paul Suarez Jr. video, How to Survive Your First Night in Minecraft, which was the very first of its kind back in the day, made for one of the very first iterations of Alpha Minecraft. In fact, I still use his method of digging a hole into a cliff and sleeping or waiting out the night when I start a new Minecraft world. That's besides the point, but if you were a new player in early 2010, you probably didn't know much of anything. Your friend in school maybe told you about this weird new indie game, and when you went and loaded in, everything was confusing and kind of eerie. The game lagged on your machine from 2005 running Windows XP, and you didn't really know why, but turning up the fog effect by pressing F let you run it a little bit smoother. But turning on the fog had a different effect too. It just made the game kind of unsettling. Minecraft was darker at night back then, and smooth lighting didn't exist, so seeing creepers and skeletons and zombies coming out of the extremely dark fog, combined with the grid-like lighting, was just inherently scary for some reason. It's hard to remember that and put yourself in those shoes nowadays with everything we know about the game, but if you really think about it, it was scary. Part of this feeling too was the lack of color diversity in Alpha Minecraft. The world is full of bright green grass and bright green trees with the occasional yellow sand. The water was a different shade of blue than it is now, and no matter how far you walk, everywhere you look is just bright green or blue. In today's game, you are immediately surrounded by a vast color palette with cherry groves, tons of flowers, different shades of grass, etc. The colors were also toned way down to be more warm, neutral, and inviting. In this case, there's actual science behind why that's unsettling. In a study done on mood, based on warm and cool lighting in the workplace, study participants reported a higher level of anxiety and tension, combined with lower performance and production when working in an environment with bright, striking colored lighting, like bright red, and reported feeling comfortable and safe, along with good performance working with warm and duller lighting instead. This shouldn't be surprising. I'm sure you're watching this video curled up in a blanket, surrounded by the cozy lighting you've set up in your room, near your PC, or on your bed on your phone. It's not a groundbreaking study or anything. I'm not going to put on my YouTuber hat and say, these results will shock you, but it is some documented proof that there's a psychological component to color and lighting. Not sure if this change was intentional or even thought of on Mojang's end when they were updating textures and developing new blocks. It probably wasn't, but I do find that very interesting to ponder. Now, if you started playing around Alpha 1.2, aka Minecraft's first Halloween update, maybe you heard about it and went to the Nether for the first time. The Nether in Alpha was extremely different than it is now. There were only 3 blocks: Netherrack, Glowstone, and Soul Sand, and only 2 mobs: Zombie Pigmen and Gas. The terrain generation was a little different. It had massive lava oceans and was extremely dangerous to navigate, honestly way more than it is today. It had the same feeling as the overworld: dark, dangerous, creepy, and completely unknown. All of that leaves us with the last small but immense detail. You are unbelievably, unequivocally, strikingly alone. Back then, there were no villages or other structures to find. There were no villagers or other humanoid mobs. Just you, the very occasional animal, and an insane amount of hostile mobs in the darkness. The world feels so empty and liminal even when you start building things. Have you ever looked at old alpha screenshots of builds or downloaded an old world of someone's with tons of builds? Even bigger alpha builds feel empty and abandoned in a way. There's a weird feeling looking at them that I can't put my finger on, but I'm sure you felt it too. It's not the same as downloading a city world in today's version. And this loneliness and liminality inherently leads us to feel unsettled from a psychological standpoint. It makes sense why people's brains started filling in the gaps of the unknown. The terrain generation quirks of the time also led to interesting and weird monoliths and almost human-like terraforming sometimes. Almost as if someone else entirely had done it when we were offline, which led us to him. Herobrine. Quite possibly the most famous and well-recognized creepypasta-esque story in all of video gaming. Most of you probably know the origin, but in case you don't, Herobrine was invented in the first version of Alpha Minecraft, partially due to the reasons I just talked about. He was first seen in the famous Copeland Brocraft Herobrine stream, where the creator Copeland ran into Herobrine in his base and was chased around and killed by him. Fun side tangent, this stream became one of Minecraft's biggest pieces of lost media and was just found last year, 14 years later, after being accepted as lost forever. It's a great story. Anyway though, after that, this screenshot was created. You've probably seen it, and Herobrine was catapulted into the spotlight. It struck fear in regular Minecraft players because, again, it was kind of a believable story at the time. Reports flooded in of weird things appearing in people's Minecraft worlds, and most were fabricated, of course, but some were real interesting terrain generation quirks, like the vast amount of cross-shaped floating islands due to how alpha terrain was generated. It reached the point where Notch and Mojang started putting removed Herobrine in every patch note for years and years and years after this. Herobrine, of course, never actually existed, but it is a great example of what happens when liminality and eeriness in a video game meets an era where creepypasta and dark storytelling were at their absolute peak. This isn't the first example of this exact phenomenon either. Well before Minecraft was even thought of, there was a very similar scary story in gaming that combines all of the elements that makes Alpha Minecraft unsettling. This game is GTA San Andreas. Released all the way back in 2004, it is one of the most iconic games ever, as well as one of the pioneers into modern 3D gaming. It was way ahead of its time in almost every aspect, but in the context of this video, there's one specific region I'd like to talk about: the southwestern part of the map in a small region called the Back O Beyond. In case you're unfamiliar, the Back O Beyond is a fairly barren, hilly, forested area of the map. There quite literally is almost nothing in the region, and beyond one mission in the game, it's not used for anything else. It's also really quiet, foggy, and dark. There's a tiny remote cabin that I think is made to be creepy by design, and other than that, nothing. Exploring this region gives me the same eerie loneliness that Alpha Minecraft does, and so, of course, just like in the case of Herobrine, there are tons of urban legends about this area of GTA San Andreas. Perhaps most famously, there's a myth of Bigfoot roaming the forest and terrorizing and stalking the player. I remember hearing about that myth first on a forum post a very, very long time ago and getting really freaked out anytime I played San Andreas and traveled to this region because of it. When YouTube started gaining popularity, so did videos and quote-unquote sightings of Bigfoot in the game. And that's not the only one. There's ghost myths, a myth about a haunted car that's actually a real Easter egg. In fact, there's so many that there's an entire wiki about them, and some of them are so in-depth that they put Herobrine to shame. It's the same recipe. It has the fear of the unknown and liminality leading to creepy stories about areas like this in games. The lack of NPCs, life, and a really, and I mean really creepy fog blocking your view beyond the horizon. And San Andreas isn't the only game that felt like this in the early to mid 2000s. In fact, fact, a lot of games at the time used this concept on purpose to be scary. I mean, this formula is the entire reason Silent Hill is terrifying. The first Silent Hill games were genuinely scary in a way that modern horror games don't capture very well, using the lack of sight and lack of just things in general to cause suspense and tension. Another great example of this is the early Resident Evil games. Resident Evil didn't really use liminal space and loneliness on purpose per se, but it definitely added to the game's overall horror experience. And that leads me to my next point. The thing that ties these games together is being bound by the hardware limitations of their time. GTA San Andreas probably wasn't super foggy and creepy on purpose, but in 2000 to 2003, when it was being developed, world rendering and optimization was in its infancy. The reason render distance in old games is so low is because it has to be on the engines they were running on. This leads to so many games of the time having this effect, on purpose or not. I mean, retro games are the subject of so many creepypastas it's kind of ridiculous. Majora's Mask, Pokemon Red, Lavender Town, Polybius, Earthbound, there's so many. Minecraft's really no different. At the time in 2009, Windows XP was still running the show. Hardware was just starting to get exponentially better, but Minecraft was incredibly laggy on most home machines. No optimization plus a Java game was not good for the dinosaur machines of the olden days. This meant most players were forced to limit their render distance in some way, and it led to this effect. And on the topic of hardware limitations, there's a reason analog horror is so popular. Playing the original Silent Hill 2 at 3 AM in 2004 on an old CRT TV brings a whole different vibe than playing the Silent Hill 2 2024 remake on an 8K 32-inch curved LCD monitor display with ray tracing and graphics better than our eyeballs can even comprehend. There's entire movies that play on the creepiness of old hardware, like The Ring or the famous TV static scene in Poltergeist. That's no accident. By the time Minecraft came out in 2009, LCD displays were pretty widespread, so this effect isn't as pertinent to our story of alpha Minecraft being unsettling, but I thought it was very interesting to bring up in general. Kind of a weird niche thing if you think about it. Very interesting in hindsight, but a rabbit hole for a different time. Look at all these pictures. How do they make you feel? Creeped out? Nostalgic? Both? These are liminal spaces. I've used the word liminal a lot in this video, but to define it, a liminal space is a place that is transitional in nature, so think things like hallways, parking lots, or waiting rooms. In internet culture, this has evolved into abandoned-looking places and fleshed-out stories like the backrooms. However, the tone of liminal spaces always feels nostalgic at the same time. A hallway in an old arcade, a parking lot of an old mall at night, a hotel courtyard from the 1990s. It's almost an indescribable feeling. It feels creepy and nostalgic in a cozy, comforting way at the same time. Like meeting with an old friend if that old friend was wearing a clown mask for some reason. No, but really, one of the things that makes old Minecraft so nostalgic is this liminal phenomenon. I mean, the entire world of an alpha-generated Minecraft world is liminal space. It feels like you're constantly in transition, on the verge of discovering something, or meeting someone that's not really there and never will be there. Modern Minecraft has liminal space, but it's much different than it used to be. On modern hardware, even low-end modern hardware, render distance can be jacked up pretty high. Hell, there's even a mod that lets you see tens of thousands of blocks away in any direction. These things are amazing, and it's only going to get better and more accessible, but it does take away from what makes alpha Minecraft so unsettling in the first place. The hardware limitations of the time combined with the fear of the unknown. It's a perfect soup recipe for an incredibly unsettling atmosphere in a game that wasn't designed to be as such. All in all, the fear of the unknown will always lead to creepy atmospheres and stories such as this. It's not a new thing. Humans have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years with things like campfire stories and mythical stories like the Loch Ness Monster and the Chupacabra. Minecraft is just another one of these examples, and it's a uniquely shared experience between millions of players. What else makes old Minecraft so creepy in your mind? Comment your thoughts, leave a like, and subscribe if you're brand new, of course. I love you all so very much. Go build a liminal space in your world today, and I'll see you in the next video. Special thanks to my channel members on these signs, especially my knights Jamie, Hanatic02, Darklight, GreenFox453, Fantic, Melon Siggy, and Thomas Wellman Boyd, and my beloved Lord members Wooden Bear Productions, Jake P2013, Annoyed Avenger, Jazz This, and Dirty Dan.